All right, Shalom. I'd like to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chahakwadash. Double honors unto our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who do teach and rule well and taught us this 100% truth. Peace, love, and salutations unto the Lord's elect, the hopeful elect in the 1/3. You Akim out there pushing his word in truth and sincerity. Unto those of you who are scattered unto the four corners, following the Lamb whithersoever he goes, unto you we say Shalom. The name of the Heavenly Father, his name is Yahweh, which means he is the I am. The name of his Son, who the world daily calls Jesus Christ, his name is Yahweh Shai, which means he saves or he delivers. Bahashem being in the name of the Rakakwadash, which is the Holy Spirit, which comes through the volume of the book. For lo, it is written of him, our Lord Yahweh Shai, who was and is yet to come. All right, and we, so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, are indeed Israelites. All right, and those of you whose fathers' fathers, through the seed of the Father, go back to an Israelite man who had been scattered across the four corners, as is prophesied all throughout the scriptures, are indeed Israelites. All right. More so specifically to those of you who adhere, all right, to the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kakadash through these prophecies. All right. Until we have been commanded to go out into the highways and hedges, having repented and hopes to come back to the good graces of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right, that we may execute our faith by works. All right, and additionally, we do lessons throughout the week and post them, all right, onto the internet, all right, which is also a prophecy, man, as the scripture says that there is no place where their voice is not heard, all right, and how is that? That's through the internet, okay? Now, Salakia, I did this lesson, all right, before, and this phone that, ultimately I inherited had a lot of other media and things on there. So, I did like a 40-minute video on there. And then when I went to try to upload it, the video was only 7 minutes long. So then I had to go through deleting, all of these different things within the phone, mainly photo media. So Salakia, here I am doing it again. All right. And nonetheless, let's go ahead and get it, man. All right.
I have planned for and I have executed the takeover of countries around the world. I've been part of it. I have planned for and I have executed
and there you heard
the
it,
takeover of countries around the world. I've been part of it.
All right, and there you go, man. Okay, so let's get this. Let's jump right into it. All right, now, what you heard there was one of Edom's top, operators, okay, top warlocks, top swordsman, top gatekeeper. All right, let's just get it, man. Okay, this individual, okay, was the 24th National Security Advisor, okay? What positions are above the National Security Advisor? Let's see that. Here we go. The president and the vice president are the positions directly above the National Security Advisor. You see? And so, obviously, we understand that America, which is Babylon the Great, all right, the most wicked empire, all right, which has preceded all of the other wicked empires that have held us captive. All right, but this one is a combination, all right, of all of those previous wicked empires combined into one, man. All right. They utilized the legislative systems that were perfected uh, by the Greeks and implemented by the Romans, while incorporating the witchcraft and oppression that they learned from the Assyrians and Babylonians, all right, and even going all the way back, all right, to the Canaanites and the Egyptians as well, okay? So you have all of that, all right, which is why they, there's this TV show called Prime Target, all right, on Apple TV, all right, and just like one of the brothers, forgive me, his name escapes me, but he posted a video basically mentioning that modern technology is sorcery, okay? And nonetheless, Prime Target, all right, is a movie about a mathematician, okay? And as we know that everything that Edom has created has been in the left hand, all right? Matter of fact, let me just grab that real quick because his right hand is the right hand of falsehood, I believe, falsehood, Salakia. All right, little typo there. All right, Psalms, yeah, there's 144, okay, and 8. Actually, we have to start up a little bit. Let's see here. Yeah, let's start at verse 7. Psalms 144 and 7. Send thine hand from above, rid me and deliver me out of great waters, from the hand of strange children. Exactly, man, and these are the wicked. All right, they are estranged from the womb, okay, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood, you see. And we're also going to get that, all right, here in a few scriptures as well, because, again, these people, man, they're the most wicked, and many people don't understand the magnitude to the wickedness, that is committed every single day. All right, so like I was saying, if you watch that TV show Prime Target, goes into basically how they, how they control the universities, in order to prevent certain research, and they spy on, everybody. All right, but ultimately they ensure, they gatekeep the mysteries. All right, the ancient, sorceries that were committed in time past by these other heathen nations. All right, which is why when you go into one of the wars that happened, and you can just Google search it, all right, one of the wars that Esau committed, all right, in Iraq, all right, was related to the tomb of Gilgamesh. All right, matter of fact, I can just pull it up. Reason behind invasion Gilgamesh found. Let me see. All right. Yeah, there you go. The Iraq War. This further led to the debate among scholars regarding the real reason behind the invasion of Iraq. Okay. And again, you can go into it. All right. But let's go ahead and jump into the lesson, man. Again, as you heard, Michael Flynn, all right, and Revelation 6 and 4, as he said,
I have
he
planned
has been a part
for
of.
and I have executed the takeover of countries around the world. I've been part of it.
All right, so, he's been part of, Salakia, he's been part of and executed, all right, plans to take over, all right, countries all over the world, man. All right, and that's what the National Security Advisor does. All right, he implements what is written here in Revelation 6:4. All right, so that way the president and vice president have plausible deniability. All right. However, he receives those marching orders directly from them. Okay. In like manner, it has been common, all right, to use the position of the vice president, in like manner to the NSA. You know, the vice president, sometimes it would be a situation like Biden and Kamala, all right, where, certain decision makers wasn't really done by the president, or you would have other instances, all right, as we see today, okay, with Trump and JD, all right. JD's not the VP just because of, certain other details, man. All right, there's a measure of wickedness that guy does, man. Okay. Nonetheless, let's get into it. Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red, all right, Edom, Esau, all right, the power structure of Edom, okay. You self-proclaimed white people, all right, which is not a white thing, all right, but those of you, all right, who go back to Edom, whether you be white, whether you be black, all right, in appearance, okay, which really is brown. No, there's no person that's actually black, all right. And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, okay. And that's what he has done, as you heard, man, all right. And that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword, okay. And this has been going on since we can reference 2 chapters, Revelation 12, all right, and we can reference 2nd Ezra 11, okay, because remember, the Greeks, that's why they say the Greeks was the beginning of civilization, all right, but ultimately it was the Romans who perfected it, all right. That's why you have in 2nd Ezra 11, all right, the breakdown of essentially Pax Romana, okay, and that represents Rome, okay, the eagle, right, the feathered wings, okay, the essentially the men, all right, that would begin the power reign of terror, that ultimately led to America, all right, and America has continued that charge, okay, just like back then, all right, in 2nd Ezra 11, all right, the nations being under their power, and then obviously, the succession of the first triumvirate, all right, and then, you can reference Daniel 7, right, the iron teeth, okay, because the same way that, everyone was subject unto Rome back then, everyone is subject unto America today, all right. So, yeah, and then you have Rev 12, okay, which we can jump over to that, all right, the way this devil made war, all right, with us, okay. Yeah, let's get this. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. All right, so lock it real quick. All right. All right. Verse 2, and she being with child cried. All right, now verse 1, obviously, that's representing 12 tribes, okay. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon on having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. All right. Now, for verse 2, you can reference Daniel 7:7, all right, which is why I just grabbed my Bible real quick, so that way I can open it up here without continuing to open up too many tabs and get sidetracked. All right. Daniel 7:7 reads, and after this I saw in the night visions. Well, actually, we can start at verse 6 because that's what mentions the Greeks first, okay? And then obviously, before that you have the Medo-Persian and the Syro-Babylonian. But verse 6, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. All right, obviously representing Alexander and the Greek Empire. You can read First Maccabees for that. okay, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it, exactly because Alexander had 4 main generals. Okay, verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. All right. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before, and it had 10 horns. All right, so now going back here, all right, Rev 12 and 3, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. All right, and we know those 7 heads to be the Greeks, the Romans, the French, the Spanish, the British, Germania Major, and Germania Minor. Okay, and ultimately, those 10 horns that would end up, coming in to be later on, all right, is synonymous with those vassal states. Okay, and ultimately, you had those 10 horns as is referenced here. Okay, you had the basically those vassal states were the Franks, Anglo-Saxons, Ostrogoths, Lombards, Suebi, Vandals, Alemanni, Visigoths, the Hureli, and I'm missing one more, Slovakia, this the Subi or the Sabi, but nonetheless, that's the point, man. All right, so that's how he's been able to do that, and then obviously you jump over to Revelation 13, okay, and it makes reference of it here as well in verse 2, okay. That same Daniel 7, all right, that beast like being unto the leopard, all right, his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. All right. Verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Exactly. Rome ultimately fell. All right. But through these 7 heads, all right, out of which came America, it was revived. Okay. And America, all right, in Canada, ultimately came out of which to be the Treaty of Rome, 1957. All right, they came out of NATO and EU, but the Treaty of Rome referencing those vassal states, right, and it all coming back together. All right, where ultimately this beast system, which is America, and that power arm of it being NATO and the EU, again, those vassal states that basically whatever they say goes. All right, you see how ultimately Rev 6 and 4, all right, has come into place. Okay, it's the same thing he does, and that's why you have, all right, since then, all right, Rev 6 and 4, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and it was given unto him a great sword. Okay. Now we jump back to Rev 13, and I think it's the 10th verse or 12th, maybe 11, right in the middle. All right. Here, verse 12. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Exactly. All the power is Rome. All right. Your punishment was death. Okay. If you then, fall in line with the statutes of Rome, all right, what would happen, man? You would be overthrown. You would be forced to be a vassal state. You would enter servitude, and ultimately death, man. All right. Rev 13 and 13. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Exactly. And that's what you have through NATO when they bomb Bosnia, Yugoslavia bombing, right? And then that continued through the bombing of Hiroshima, you see? So it's the same, all right, power structure today. All right. Let me grab this. All right. Sirach 10 and 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. You see? And that's what happened, man. All right. Through ultimately the prophecies, all right, and ultimately the powers that be, all right, they were able to maintain this power structure through those seven heads, all right, and then through that they were able to maintain, okay, those vassals, all right, through implementing the Treaty of Rome, all right, and the job has continued on, as we see reference in Revelation 6 and 4, and then continue on in Revelation 12 and 13. All right, again, even referencing and starting back in 2nd Ezra, the 11th, and Daniel, the 7th chapter, that breaks down all of these particular kingdoms. All right, and even unto today, where they openly boast of it.
I have planned for and I have
Right?
executed the takeover of countries around the world. I've been part of it.
Exactly. Okay. And the point, man, is that, matter of fact, let me just grab this. I'll put KJV, Slovakia. All right, here you have the implementation of what you know today as those vassal states being NATO and the EU. All right, it was initially the European Economic Community, all right, as well as the atomic energy. Okay, it created a common market along its 6 founding members: Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and West Germany. And continued on, man. All right, ultimately, the EEC, basically the EEC was the predecessor to NATO, essentially. NATO, the European Union, all right, right, was a predecessor to the European Union, right? And then you have NATO, which is the military might of it, all right? When we make mention of these things, we make mention of NATO and the EU synonymously, because it's referencing, basically that power arm and able, to implement, all right, everything that that the great whore, all right, that this dragon, all right, the beast of the earth, okay, says to do, all right. That's why you go in Rev 13 and 1, all right, starts off as saying what? And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, okay, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Exactly. So you have the beast of the sea, all right, being the other nations, okay. Rev 17. So lucky, my throat's a little swollen, man. Rev 17:15, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. All right. So NATO and EU, all right, ultimately being that commanding power over the rest of the nations and multitudes across the world. All right. And then you have the beast of the entire earth, all right, which is America, Babylon the Great, who gives its marching orders, all right, through the EU to the rest of the world. And if you don't abide by it, then the EU's military might, along with America, that military might is known as NATO, and they come in, destroy your country the same way they did with Syria. All right, they force you to take an IMF loan, in the name of democracy and rebuilding everything that they destroyed through their proxies. All right, and then you're in eternal debt and servitude. Okay, again, Sirach 10 and 8, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. All right, let's grab this, because, they boast of these things proudly, not considering, all right, because the Most High is not in all his thoughts, so they boast of these things very proudly. And, it's a beautiful thing because they mark themselves, man. Psalm 64:8, so they shall make their own tongues to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. All right, there's another one. Shall be upon his pate. All right. Psalm 7:16, his mischief shall return upon his own head, and his what? His violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate. All right, let's just grab that word real quick. All right. Psalm 7:16, not 6. All right. Because I believe this is dwelling, but I want to make sure. Head, crown of head, scalp. Right. So, hey, that's beautiful. All right. And his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate, upon his own crown. All right. Upon all of you, man. Okay. First and foremost, starting with the elites. All right. The elite banking families that control the earth. Okay. Trickle that down to all of your heads. All right. All of your leaders, man. Okay. And by that, all right, as we see with America, the same thing will happen as did in Rome under Nero. All right. It will burn. Okay. And because of the pride of this devil's heart, all right, he won't do anything about it, man. All right. He'll be overcome with fear when that time comes. All right. He's not coming to save y'all. None of it, man. All right. His mischief shall return upon his own head. Okay. This is Isaiah 14. All right. And this is a beautiful cut for those Genesis guys. All right. Stating that non-Israelites will be saved. All right. Which that's another lesson, man. All right. And it's madness. Okay. But Isaiah chapter 14:1, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall what? Possess them in the land of the Lord, power Yahbashim Yashai, for servants and handmaids, you see? So just a little sidebar, those Genesis guys, man. There's no area in the scriptures that makes mention that those who held us captive and the heathen and everything else, there's no other mention, all right, of salvation or anything of the like except for possession, slavery, okay? And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, right? That's not salvation. Okay, let's continue on with this lesson now. Right, I don't want to get sidetracked. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Exactly, man. All right. And it shall come to pass. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. Exactly, man. And that's this place. All right. There's no greater hard bondage, all right, than there is here in America, man. All right. Now, you do have other instances in history, all right, in which, people try to reference that, millions of people were killed here or there. It doesn't matter, man. All right. There's nothing that comes close to that which was done to the Israelite man, woman, and child, not only through the transatlantic slave trade, but also through the Arab slave trade. Hundreds of millions of Jakes, man. Okay? And ultimately, all right, chiefly, of which was done here in America, man. All right? Because it was millions upon millions upon millions that were dying just on the ships that weren't making it over, man. Okay? They were dying before we even got over here, man. Them conditions that we were in, man. All right, and that's another lesson, which our elders and apostles and camp heads and chiefs, our priests, bishops, and they've all went into these various points of history, all right, and brought out the evidence, man. All right. Verse 4, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and none hindereth. You see, and that's what will happen, man. All right, you boast proudly of all the destruction that you have done, but that was prophesied. All right, but you don't consider, all right, that shall fall upon your own pate, upon your own crown, upon your own dwelling. All right, and that's what it was. I was considering upon your own dwelling being America. This is the chief city, the careless city. All right, Babylon, who ought to be destroyed. Okay, let's continue in Revelation 11 and 18. Okay, and the nations were angry. As you see today, the nations are angry, man. All right, they're making deals. All right, they're preparing for war. All right, they're establishing better proxies than America has established. Okay, you have fighting between India and Pakistan. You have North Korea and South Korea continuing to go at it. All right, you have Edom's military, U.S. military, being ran out of the Horus Strait by Yemen, by the Yemens, right? You have Trump getting ready to invade Venezuela because he needs that oil, that access to oil, ultimately, because if he allows Israel to strike Iran again, which is already in the works, all right, is going to disrupt the oil supply, all right, because then you're going to have Iran, all right, and their partners and proxy rebel forces that will ultimately stop and destroy and retaliate towards oil tankers and others in that region. Okay, so he needs a closer alternative that will not affect America. All right, but he does not consider, the prophecies. Again, Yahweh Shem Yahushai is not in all his thoughts. All right, let me just grab that in a separate tab real quick. All right. And this is in the book of Psalms, if memory serves me well. All right. Psalms 10 and 4, the wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after Yahweh Shem Yahushai. The Most High Power is not in all his thoughts. Exactly, man. You see, he is God. He blasphemes God, man. All right. And so clearly, with that mindset, all right, being estranged from the moon, his right hand is the right hand of falsehood, as we referenced earlier, this national security advisor and all of the spells that they try to use, it's, to defend democracy and, it's a national security issue, right? So on and so forth. When really all they're doing is perpetrating continued wickedness, man. All right. And the world has awoken to it. All right. Which is why, again, the nations are angry. All right. Now, we haven't seen it to the point in which it will ultimately come to fruition into the third woe, meaning the full fruition of the Third World War. All right. But you can see it on the world stage, man. All right. The displeasure. All right. Because ultimately, if the nations were happy, there wouldn't be no BRICS right now. Okay. There wouldn't be an establishment of nations who are proceeding towards de-dollarization. So that displeasure will ultimately lead into war. Okay, first you have to ensure the financials are correct. All right, the money supply, so that way you can buy grain, that way you can feed the people, you can maintain, ultimately your economy. And then you further yourself into war because you can financially sustain it. Not Elam. He was given the sword, so he just went through destroying everything, all right, and then pillaging thereafter, and then forcing everyone into lifelong servitudes of debt, slavery, through the IMF, all right, through treaties implemented, all right, and so much more, man. Okay, Revelation 11 and 18, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them, which what? Destroy the earth. And that's what has been done, man. All right, as we got, when we showed this video.
I have planned for
Okay.
and I have executed the takeover of countries around the world.
Exactly. He's been a part of it. Okay. Hey, for that, man. All right, because again, they're in withal. All right, is that their houses shall continue forever. All right, and it would make sense why these people are so prideful, man. Okay, because they know, all right, at the highest levels, what America truly is. Okay, there was an article, all right. Let me see if I can find it, man. I know that's a bit long. Yep, here it is. Let me see. Yeah, of course, they always try to fact check, because if the people really knew the prophecies, all right, like George was said, if the people knew, what was really going on, all right, they would have them out in the streets, man. But Trump said that the two nations have shared a cultural and political heritage that dates back to ancient Rome. Yeah, anyway, we know what it is, man. Okay, because ultimately, here we go. Where's Rome located? Bam, Italy. All right, so we just broke down the prophecies regarding that, man. So even he said it recently. All right, so nonetheless, man. All right, let me see where we were at. All right, we were at okay, we finished Rev 11 and 18, and then I want to grab this Salakia. Like I said, I did this lesson before, so I was just trying to retrace my steps the way I, kind of formulated it the first time. But that's how it works, man. Anyway, the point of all that as well came to this. All right, because as we heard,
I have planned for and I have executed the takeover of countries around the world. I've been part of it.
And then you have just a few weeks ago, all right, the Justice Department, well, actually, this was November 14th, not even just a few days ago. The Justice Department prepares to pay Trump ally Michael Flynn millions. They want to give Michael Flynn a hefty settlement, even though he once pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. You see? So then you can get $50 million, man. All right, for, ultimately, being the wicked sword, all right, that you are. All right, now, obviously, you also have to understand that, National Security Advisor, they are familiar, all right, with many of the left-hand secrets, so that's why I made mention, him being a gatekeeper, a warlock, a chief swordsman of Esau, because he has many hats, to wear. All right. And that doesn't even include, the trafficking. All right. When you go into that word traffic, it really deals with the merchants of the ancient times. But now we know that these devils, they traffic everything, man. All right. They maintain everything on the face of the earth, man. All right. Surely, all right, if, this country was, of Yahweh Bashem, Yahushai Bashem Kagodash, it would do the things written therein. All right. But everything that this country does, even unto this very day, is completely contrary. And not only contrary to it, but then you are rewarded for it. All right. Let me grab that. There's one in Psalms. I believe the wicked are rewarded for, let me see if I could just grab it real quick. Let me see. Oh man, it was something along them lines, basically dealing with the poor, and how well, it's all right, nonetheless, you get the point. All right. Because I was, going into some scriptures about the poor, another lesson, that I did about the Christian church, and basically made mention that, everything that the rich are gathering up, he won't enjoy, and it'll be given unto the poor and so on and so forth, which we know, James and 5, how you rich men, all right, you elite banking families, all right, and then everyone under you, your sons, daughters, nephews, everyone that's kin to you, all right, and ultimately down to men like this guy, okay, so that's the point, man, these devils, man, they have a hefty price to pay, man, all right, and, the scripture makes mention, all right, that we shall dance in their blood, okay, which, hey, as was just, seen there, all right, here, all right, let's go back. Psalm 91:8, only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the what? The reward of the wicked. Exactly, man. All right, not $50 million, not a book deal, not, not some kind of tour where you can go and, you can create this reawaken America nonsense down in the bottom left corner, talk about how your country is being invaded or, they always come with that nonsense, when in reality, they're the ones that are orchestrating and deceiving, all right? And they destroy, man, everything, all right, for ultimately their back end, all right, for their houses to continue forever, man. So there you have it. Of course, man, you could commit all this wickedness and then, as is common, you get paid for it. So Adawan Radazayu was edified. Until next time, we say Shalom. Yahbashem Yashai Brakatah.